We are not.
Senate appropriation, April 21st. We are trying to finish up that FY27 budget. Yesterday, the yield bill passed the Senate Finance. It's here now. We're not going to vote on the bill, but there's a part of that that affects the budget. So we're going to have, I think, Ms. Richter from TECO explain it. I think or should John do the one? Who should describe that?
I can talk about it. I don't know if Emily wants to set it up.
I think you heard it up.
Okay.
So we talked about incorporating their changes to the bill.
I think there's. Or the, yeah, thank you very much. I forgot about that chair. Amy's co-pilot. We'll talk to that. Okay. You can introduce yourself to the rest.
Sure. Good afternoon, Julie Richter, Joint Fiscal Office. There is the fiscal note published on the committee page and the Ed Fund Outlook under my name. And I know that you're not taking up the yield bill now, and we're just talking about it in terms of the budget. So do you want me to just talk big picture?
Really just that formula.
Yeah, sure.
The effect on the big picture, I think, would be helpful. But we're going to do that tomorrow.
Yep. Okay, so big picture, you'll recall that the budget, as you got it from the House, had the 104.9 million of general fund transferring to the education fund for the purpose of buying down property taxes. And your Senate Finance Committee voted out the yield bill H 949 on Friday. And part of that conversation is how to use that one-time general fund monies going into the education fund for the purpose of setting property taxes. And where the Senate Finance Committee landed on the yield bill that they voted out was to use 100.9 million of one-time general fund for the purpose of uniformly lowering next year's tax bills. That's 4 million less than has been included in the budget as you've been contemplating. And the way that Senate Finance, the other piece of that construct is they said, okay, we're going to take the 100.9 million, use it to lower property taxes in FY27, and then we're going to take 4 million and we're going to do a 1-year expansion of the renter credit, which
is a 1 year.
1 year.
It's not a phase.
Correct. So I know John's here who can talk through the language, but essentially what it does is it expands the renter credit by 1 year in FY27, and then it reverts back to current law in FY28. And the estimated cost of that expansion is 4 million. So it doesn't impact the overall construct of the big bill. It just changes the way that the 104.9 is divvied up. And rather than appropriating or transferring the 104.9 million to the education fund using 100.9 to buy no property taxes and then transferring that 4 million back to the general fund, that doesn't make sense. So it does make sense is instead for the big bill to transfer the 100.9 million the education fund to lower property taxes and then increase the renter credit also within the big bill so that it squares with the bill.
So the language, I assume, like it changes the qualifications for the program or something like that.
Yeah, you're talking about the renter credit?
Yeah.
Yes. So what it does is it expands it by increasing the maximum credit amount and increasing the amount of the HUD fair market rent that's used to calculate it. So under current law, it's 10%, it's increasing that to 12.5%. And the maximum credit amount is also increased. But I know John is here. There's more questions.
Any questions? And then what do you want? We do explain later how that shows up in our.
Yeah, or I can do it right now. I'll do it again when it shows up, but you'll see in like the web report and in the big bill that the $4 million is appropriated in the renter credit line just to keep all the money together for next year's spending. And then Grady will have language that says it's the intent that this is a 1 year increase. So that even though the extra money is going to show up in the base budget, it's really a one-time chip. And then the transfer amount It's just $4 is all.
It's pretty straightforward, yes, that are right.
Just what, it might be answered later, but this, increases the buy down to about 3.8%. For the,
Yeah, so the buy down of using the 100.9 million, that would all be used in 1 year.
Right.
For the Senate finance construct, and that estimates an average uniform bill change of 3.8%.
and it was at 3.6.
So it depends on what you're comparing it against. If you were to use the full 104.9 million, it would be 3.6. Uniform bill increase. The yield bill as passed over from the House only used half of that 104.9 million, so that's 6.7%.
Okay. So it's 0.2%, not 4.9. No.
7 point, yeah.
Any other questions? But basically, even though we're not going to pass the yield bill till tomorrow, by doing this, we're squaring it up, so it'll be in the budget. Okay, I think that's it.
Great,
Thank you.
yes.
Nobody has any questions? I don't think we'll have any questions for you either. That's our guess. What were we gonna do discuss? We were gonna do, discuss. I don't think there's anything else to discuss, but you're,
Well, Grady got some language,
right, we did the language and spread, so do,
language and spreadsheets, so we're gonna give you stuff to read.
yes, so we will do the language.
You just,
No, that is not.
you know, it's like a spectrum of these hotel.
Thank you, Grady Nixon, Joint Fiscal. So the packet I'm handing out has a few additions and changes from last Friday relating to the big bill. These are major changes. There are some other technical updates that we can go through with the committee while you review your bill offline. But these were significant adds that we wanted to show the committee before we print the bill. The first one you'll see is updates to the cash fund to reflect the capital bill that is in Senate institutions. I would flag for the committee that this language is not the most current language. So there will be a change in the final version of the bill updating this language here. The thrust of this is that the committee made 3.5 million changes net neutral to the cash fund appropriations. So that total number in sub A on line 4 stays the same. You'll see highlighted here, sub C is 1 million for statewide 3-acre parcel stormwater compliance. That is a new appropriation. And then in sub I, 2.7 million to AHS for door control upgrades at correctional facilities. That appropriation is increased by 2 million over the House version of the cash fund appropriations. On page 2 in sub N, you'll see 500,000 for AHS for maintenance and renovations at the Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility. That is down by 750,000 from the House construct, and the language in the original language read from replacement, women's entry, and correctional facilities. In sub 2, neither of these appropriations you'll see in A or B will happen in the institution's cash fund appropriations any longer. Instead, the committee has updated their language to have a $500,000 allocation to Newport Northern State Correctional Facility for a sprinkler system upgrade. So you'll see that reflected in the final language that will be included in the bid bill. And then on page 3 of this, you'll see to the Department of Corrections, there's 250,000 to work with ADS to install Wi-Fi systems at state correctional facilities. That is down from the House version, which was 3 million. So it's down by 2.75 million.
But as long as the big number is not changed.
No, the big number, the box is still the same.
Does anybody have any questions about cash fund? Okay.
On page 4, this is the language that Emily was just referencing. So you'll see, in the big bill language, there is a $4 million increase to the renter rebate line item in B 138. So in the House version, it was 11.5 million. In your bill, it would be 15.5 million. And then, as Emily mentioned, there's also a corresponding reduction to the general fund transfer to the education fund. So rather than that number being 104.9 million in the Senate bill, it would be 109 million. And then this language section in a proposed section E 138 would tie all of those pieces together and just state that that $4 million base increase in B 138 of this act be a one-time increase in FY 27 that shall not recur in future fiscal years. On page 5, this is language relating to the $350,000 transfer to the Domestic and Sexual Violence Special Fund in section D 101. This would state that of that transfer, 250,000 shall be distributed by the Center for Crime Victim Services as grants to the member organizations of the Vermont Network.
This is a change of $50,000.
The proposal that the committee on Friday.
This is related to the House had $100,000 for admin services to the Center for Crime Victim Services. So it's another way of getting $100,000 to the Senate. Then we're okay with that.
On page 6, this is a language section proposal from Senator Lyons, so I'll defer to her on this. It would state that the Department of Health can, in FY 27, consider allocating $1 million to support the implementation of a statewide population-based youth behavioral prevention program for youth between 13 and 18 years of age.
Right, this was the, this comes from the substance use prevention program, and it's a specific use of those monies for kids between 13 and 18. With work on mental health, prevention, peer support services, behavioral health, education services.
Just asks them required you to consider it.
Yeah. It's shall consider. It doesn't.
They can decide not to do it or do it.
Right.
Any questions about this? We're okay with putting that in? Good.
And then I believe there's another proposal from Senator Lyons that I would again defer to her on. You won't see it in this language packet, but now is.
Do you want me to talk about it now?
It's up to you. I can just briefly explain. There's a one-time appropriation committee saw on Friday $400,000 opioid abatement special funds to recovery centers, and I believe Senator Lyons, on review of allowable uses of funds, recommended pulling that appropriation.
Right. Well, that currently we have a bill in front of us in our committee, H 660, which is the opioid prevention fund bill. And within that, there's an $800,000 appropriation for the recovery centers. This $400,000 is in the bill is in addition to that. So we wanted to just remove this and leave it in H 660. One of the problems that I'm finding with the opioid advisory committee, opioid fund advisory committee, is that now people are going everywhere to start appropriating out of that fund. But we felt that pressure here very much. So this really will keep the integrity of the process And will also allow for the full appropriation for the recovery centers. In addition to which, there's some language in the proposal that is notwithstanding language that is problematic, given what the guidelines are for the settlement itself. So you can't really notwithstand guidelines from a legal settlement through the Attorney General's office. And I think that may complicate things by having that language in there. So those two things, just if we strike that section.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fine, because I think we were thinking it wasn't happening prevention though, so if it's gonna, the funding's gonna be there.
yeah,
We don't need to do the 400,000.
So just, so the 800,000 is then 660.
yes.
This 400,000 going through there just being taken out.
It's just taken out. This would, I think, the way this was proposed was originally 800,000. We took out 400. So now there's 800,000 there, 400.
Or in
We just got rid of this.
And this is all out of prevention.
Yes. Okay, so,
I'm okay with that.
And then finally on page 7, this is updated language relating to Senator Westman's proposal of putting a contingent implementation or creation provision relating to the positions that are in the bill. So you'll see highlighted on page 7, language stating that the positions created in E100 overall position creation, and then a number of full positions, excluding the limited service military positions, would be effective on August 15th, provided that the official state revenue estimate for the general fund has not been reduced by 1% or more from the estimates determined and assumed for the purposes of filling the budget. And that language aligns directly with the statutory provision relating to rescissions. So that would make the creation of those positions effective only if that revenue downgrading is not occurred.
So I thought there was gonna be a part here that allowed the board or JFC to look at it and allow those positions to go through anyway, but this is just an absolute line. If the revenue forecast is up by 1%, and you just can't do the positions, you know, the budget just.
That is how this language is currently drafted. Many want to add in language specifying that the joint fiscal committee can review it.
Some reason I thought that's. Because it could be. 1% is decent amount of money, but it's still, there might be reasons why the joint fiscal committee might still want to do some of the positions, not all, you know, instead of saying none of them are going to happen, especially ones like the childcare bill. If we pass the childcare bill and say you shall do this, but then we don't give them the position to do it, it's a little difficult. So can you think of language?
Yeah, I'll draft something and work with legislative council to make sure that it's workable vis-a-vis the actual effective date provision that needs to be reworked. Just, I'm not sure that in the bill we can set an effective date and then add an exclusion to that. But we can rework the language so that we define the bill that is reconciled with the committee's intent.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the effective date. And it's, yeah, I'll let you think about it. Yes, Senator Watson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about it as separate from the effective date, just what is the process that occurs should that be triggered, right? Like if it's, the downgrade is more than 1%, so they don't happen. But in the case of the child care bill, we allocated them the money, and so are they obligated or not? You know, like there's,
Right.
it's like they're, maybe it's not gray space, but I think it would be helpful to clarify.
Yeah, they hire those, the positions are different than the application. They could do the work with other contracted services or something. They come in the VA and say, you told us to do it, so we did it, so now you have to give us the money.
Yeah,
Could we add a sentence after the last sentence currently that says, in the event that the 1% threshold is reached, only an affirmative vote of the joint fiscal committee will bring these into being.
That's what I was thinking, something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that,
I'll get back to the committee with the revised language on that.
as long as everybody's okay with that, I mean, sure. That, I think we're putting a lot in that September joint fiscal meeting for July 30th. Doesn't matter which one. They're gonna meet both those. They're gonna have a July 30th meeting in September. Revision that and. Okay, yes.
Thank you. Because we finished watching through, if there was nothing more that you. Okay, just want to clarify something about the 211 piece. Because there's no language that I think we've seen about 211. We had some conversation about the number. I think there's a question about, is it the amount that we would be allocating to them? Is it specifically for, these extra hours between 4 and 10 p.m.? If there was language that specified that, question was, could that be removed? Because it really could be operation for 211. But just to confirm this, my understanding is at this moment anyway, is that there is no language regarding 211.
Correct.
Okay, so there's nothing to remove.
There is 1.22.
The number changed, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, the numbers tripped
It
up.
was half of.
It was half, but the house had the wrong number in it, so
Oh.
we figured it
A
out.
little change. So we're basically appropriating money to one program. One program could decide
How
how the best use.
Right. And it's not specifically for,
There'll be a contract that they have to follow with the state. So that
okay,
the contract will say it, but it's.
I just wanted to make sure that was out there, clear.
We don't need that.
Great, we don't need one.
Unless you wanted to specifically say it shall be used. Certain time. Any other questions or language concerns? New major amendment, Bill, you want to make it? Complicated language request for grading due in the next 30 minutes. Yeah. You do it.
No, I was just thinking about, if we're, I was just thinking about the prevailing wage, because we had, it's in there, but
Shouldn't that language, the committee will see once we print the final bill, all of the language relating to one-time appropriations will be in there. So we'll see that then.
Well, 200 pages through. Okay, thank you.
Ready? Right.
It's just the.
Just. Goodness, did you been recyclable? Right? See? Sorry, don't recycle anything ever. Keep it for posterity. I'm willing to sign them, like, give you my autograph later if you want. Okay,
Only for the rec.
Uh-oh.
See, you jinxed.
Major party foul.
All right, for the record, Emily Burns, the joint fiscal office here with a hope hopefully last-ish batch of spreadsheets for you. To start with. These ones. So I'm not gonna go through all of the lines specifically, I'll just flag ones that are different from Friday. The only one that I highlighted on here is the change for the renter credit on line 13 for the yield bill, updating, increasing the rent credit for 1 year. So that the language will indicate that it's a one-time change, but it's going to show up in the base, just to keep things simple for the tax department in terms of implementing it. Other changes to flag the 211 number is updated. When we were looking at it over the weekend, what the House had done was put in
41.
Line. This
Line
is
41.
their one time in bids, right?
Yeah, okay, so it's in line 41 and it's also in line 49. There isn't a one time for it.
Okay.
So what the House had done was it added $220,000 to DCF in 100% general fund to backfill the contract. There was also global commitment appropriations. What we figured out was the fund mix was off and we needed to move stuff up to the global commitment appropriation. So what we did was we updated it to fund 50% of the need. And then that was turned into global commitment funds. So the 210 was cut in half and then it could be reduced further because it was matched the global commitment to gross up to the total amount needed for 50% of the funding requested. That makes sense.
The line 41 is just 70,000.
So we took
The
in
one,
line,
the 110 was able to lower to 70,000.
yeah, the 70,000 turns into 166,000, which is half of what the total that was needed to backfill the contract. So it's sort of a partial buyback. Total needed was like 332. So the 166 is half of the 332, and because it's global commitment funded, you only need about $70,000 to buy it.
So. Line 49, this sort of got contract for evenings, and I wonder if.
That might not be the right answer. Yeah.
There's two of them on there.
Yes. Okay, the next update, there were some technical changes of like flag line 43 and 44. Bridges to Health was supposed to be in the health department, not in DEVA, so we shift, so it looks like it's 0 on line 43, but it shows up again on line 44 in the health department. That was everything on the base sheet that changed over the weekend.
Why is that? No, we had to cut the bridges down. That was the line is kind of struck. Yeah. This is 50 to 35.
Yeah,
We,
in
It's a 350.
Senator Alliance construct, it's 350,000.
oh,
Yeah. So this incorporates all the changes that Senator Alliance presented. But I believe they were added in on Friday, so they're all. Yes. Are there other questions? Sure. And we can jump to the one times. sheet.
Our balance needs to cover one time. That because we're 4 million.
Yes, it's a little misleading. And I'm gonna think about how to carry it on the sheet so that it correctly reflects the fact that while like $4 million for the renter credit is showing up in the base part of the budget, the language makes it one time, so I may tweak how it shows up on the final sheets so that it's on the one-time sheet, so that the comparison between the base amount of funding that's being utilized for one-time appropriations aligns between the reflect what's actually going on in the language.
Right. Yeah, it would be better if it was 28.
But it really is.
Right.
Okay, so on the one-time sheet, the few things I would flag on line 11 for shelter development and the items associated with H 938. We understand that bill is still under conversation in Senate Health and Welfare. So what the House had done was split out all the appropriations into separate line items. We grouped it all into one and left it so that it will reflect whatever changes occur at 938.
The total will be
The total won't change.
21. Yeah.
On here in blue, I've highlighted the change related to the proposal that Senator Westman put on the table yesterday related to local food shelves. So line 21, that's the 697 for local food shelves. And then the decreases in the NOFA appropriation, Vermonters feeding Vermonters, and the AOE Child and Adult Care Food Program. Yes.
Should you highlight the ones that were in my town?
Yeah. Those are those three numbers.
But they're not highlighted. They're just about.
They're blue on the sheet there. The other one that I would flag is in the AHS central office on line 22. It's the post-permanency adoption funding. When we reviewed this on Friday, it was $100,000 request for a fund for post-permanency adoption funding. Based on how that is funded, it's almost $300,000 of global commitment funds. In order to figure out how to turn it into global commitment funds appropriately and make sure all of the entities that provide post-pregnancy adoption, it went to 123,000 of general fund, up from 100,000 of that funds. Fully restores the governor's reduction in the post-permanency adoption services.
Where's 22?
Oh, look at that. Between 27 and 28. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
I think that's because we had to cut it.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's between 27 and 28.
So I
That's very funny.
We'll fix that.
Every number.
That's
At
how,
least there's not 22.
yes.
Is that our one, is that your question or did?
That was my question. I'm having some deja vu to that.
It happened last year. Oh, yeah. Like the last thing. Yeah.
Wow. This was like permanently in there is 22.
Currently in there.
27, 20.
It's also right, like I've mentioned JFO like side Easter eggs to make sure you're paying attention. So you found this. Congratulations. All right. I think that only other change on this one, highlighted in green at the very bottom, as we just talked about, the update to the transfer to the education fund for property tax relief, reducing it by $4 million from line with the yield bill. About $67,000 when all is said and done.
So I do have a question.
Yes.
So going back to line 11. Now exactly what happened again here between the 6 million together, the health and 3, we're up to 18.
Yeah, so you have to net line 11 with 12 through 15. What the House did was pre-point some of the appropriations that the governor had made. So they added in right line 13, 14, and 15 in the House side, took the money from line 11 and line 12. That's the, underlying bill, H 938, hasn't been finalized yet. We didn't specifically call out those appropriations, but all of the money for, emergency housing and shelters into one line item with language that says utilize for these things, tied back to what H 93 will ultimately say. And it may move again in conference committee based on how H 93 shakes out and how they're interacting. The dollar amounts
The 21 8, that's
in total, yeah, it may be through a couple of months.
right, through those all.
Yep.
Or new line, maybe they'll have 20 lines, all up in your line.
Maybe.
That's a good idea. Let's see. What we-
We'll get everything on this one if nobody else has any questions.
So the line 83. That's different than this language that Brady had with the network.
We're gonna,
It's a transfer.
right, we're transferring that money to that fund, and then the network and the Center for Crime Victim Services can use some for that.
Say 350.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
The next spreadsheet. I'm not gonna go through in great detail. This is more to help you as you review the bill. In terms of making sure everything's in the right place. So this is this one-time spreadsheet. But it has all funds on it and all appropriations into the dollar, so you can see all the changes from the governor, the House, and the Senate. And includes the other funds. So one, for example, that I will call out that you'll see on this sheet, but that you don't see on the other sheet. Is on line 80 with University of Vermont, the multipurpose center. We have 15, the House is 0, and then the Senate is 12 million. So that's how we show those other items. Very back on line 80. Yep. So then you'll see in the fund column, the specific fund that those appropriations are coming out of. I'm not gonna go through this in it, you should all look familiar, and when you look at the bill, you should be able to mention that.
Number 52, they just made.
Oh, yeah, on line 52, thank you, Nolan. The opioid special fund recovery centers, that one will come off. For the conversation you just had, and move to the opioid bill.
We'll move line 22.
Yeah, we'll put line 22 there, we'll just leave 52 off. It'll be like the 13th floor of a hotel.
We just move it between, two of those.
All right.
That's fine.
That doesn't change the numbering of the.
No.
11%.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you want.
I just wanted to clarify. For the multi-purpose center. The contract ends up with more money in the fund, like 3 years, is that?
And going forward, continue to price.
It's around 5 million a year. We're estimating
Between 4 and 5.
we're gonna have to do it year 4, and if you get back up.
And all of it is increase even this year, next year, over what, what otherwise.
Right, because of the increase of the money into the customer.
Because of some point.
Okay, any other questions from Ms. Byrne on social funds, other funds?
We ran out of.
Well, I figured this one was legible on normal size paper. So this should also be familiar, we've been through this before, just wanted to hand this out to show the update for the education fund transfer. Reducing that by $400. These are all the transfers in and out of the general fund. To other funds. As we discussed.
Then can I go back to the other sheet?
Yeah.
That was the agency of transportation,
Oh, boy, yeah.
which I can't remember why these are, why they're on here.
They're appropriated in the big bill.
It's like line 46. Appropriating, I assume on the other fund that the reference here is the transportation fund.
Yeah,
There's some other.
yeah. If you go to the column, the fund column, the third one in. That has the. Line 46 transportation fund, and then for others, just everything you can touch.
Right, so, but why would that one transportation fund appropriation be for the sheet, not all of it?
This is the one-time appropriation that's in the V1100 section. The transportation fund. It's the only one that was in there. It was in the governor's recommend
It's from the transportation fund to the.
to the agency of transportation, so the Berlin garage. It's a little bit of a funny one if I remember.
Could the agency different than they don't normally take it out of fund?
They do, but you have to give a who and a where. So the who is the agency and the where is the transportation fund. This one is a little, you may recall this one, this is the,
Because it is a Picard, because of.
it has to do with the
FEMA?
insurance reserve
Right,
fund.
that's what it is.
So that the insurance reserve money in the budget is transferred into the transportation
Right.
fund, and then it's appropriated out of the transportation fund in the big bill. I think to keep that transfer from the insurance reserve fund and the appropriation running in the same
Right, right,
place.
I remember. Okay.
All right. And then I'm not gonna hand out the reversion sheet. It didn't change from last week.
I think this was Senator Norris, just sort of asking about the tech mod fund. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work with the half that we did in the half?
Sure. So the way that's gonna work is you will take in the FY26 7 budget, you'll take all the 9.5 million out of that fund. On the contingency list at the close of FY26, if there's any general fund over and above what's been allocated, appropriated, reserved, etc. The contingency list has the first $4.5 million going to the tech modernization fund. So if there's actually, I know they're still processing income tax receipts and other receipts for FY26. So we don't actually know at this point if there will be any money for a contingency list. But if there is, the first place that it goes for the bill is back into the tech mod fund. So 4 million would go in and then 9 million out.
We're spending all 9 million dollars. Gonna read that out. If we have.
If you have.
Yeah, just. That's what it says.
Oh, what's the revenue source for the tech?
It's interest. Yeah, this is interest though.
Which is the interest, right?
This interest that's being gained in that. But we put general fund in. Do that one.
With the reserves,
Yeah.
The general fund? not the contingency. I don't have the contingency. That's in the language. I can rattle. I can't just rattle.
It's just
Was this text on funds that could.
1 million for the security fund.
5 million to the human services caseload reserve and 30 million for education, for a reserve.
I think
For
it's 25.
same as last year.
I think it's
Put it as 30.
25. Then you had 30, then we did 5 in case of. But maybe we kept it at
I think
30.
we kept it at 30. Because we had no idea what how much we had. Yeah, no idea.
It's up to 30.
Versus 30.
Keep it the same as last.
So what order do they fall on? 25.
Tech fund, ag, security fund, caseload reserve. Property tax reserve. And then, all the direct apps are just our estimates. Why was the earned federal receipts or NHS?
I think in having conversations with the Agency of Human Services,
They just said.
the House determined they could take over.
Do you know why the captive insurance fund is taking money, basically taking money back?
I think they're projecting that having, the last couple of years, they've had to put general fund into the captive reserve fund, because it hasn't had any money to spend in deficit based on budget and revenue projections. Okay, I got one more. I'm not gonna hand out the reversions, because they were the same as Friday. It's changed. This is the last one. I was hoping consider was what you were gonna ask me about. You didn't, but this is just a summary of where the reserves in the general fund, what their balances are gonna be at the end.
I was waiting for it.
I was all excited.
I was gonna,
Here this
I
year.
was gonna wait on my other question, but it came up, so when you gave the first one, I'm like.
Perfect. So, at the end of fiscal 27, put some money into the stabilization reserve based on prior year appropriations. No anticipated change in the human services caseload reserve. That will change based on contingency appropriations. Same with the balance reserve. In the 2753rd reserve, adding $6.5 million. At FY 26, there was the 60 million that was reserved in the general fund for one-time needs. This budget contemplates unreserving 30 million for property tax relief. So when all of that is said and done, at the end of FY 27, projected to have $375.1 million in general fund reserves.
The 60 and the one time for FY 26 or 27 for less than 60.
No, you're thinking of
Oh, I'm
the
thinking
50.
of the 50.
Yeah, that's appropriated and not reserved.
The 60s for sure. Then everyone's.
Stabilization reserve into use.
I mean, things are bad.
We can only use it in case at the end of the year and close out, there's. And then, the way the statute is written and the way the bond houses would look at it, immediately, the first thing we have to do the next year is refill that reserve. So for all intents and purposes, the, when we look at the 127, that can't be reserved, used. So it's really more like 250. And the 26.8, we'd be foolish to lose. So that gets me really down to, we got a little over 200 million if we got into trouble. Which is not a lot.
The balance reserve and case reserve.
You know, one would ask, in the last recession, how big a swing was there in the income tax and what?
I don't know.
I'm just, in comparison, when you look at those reserves, what's real that we would have, and what if things, if there was a swing, what there would be because it's not a lot of money.
And it's one-time money.
And it's one-time money, and I hate to sound like old, but You know, every once in a while, the car breaks down.
So in 26, we took money out of the stabilization measure. Did we actually spend that money?
Oh, yeah, I put a note on that.
I
So
see what, yeah, the reason why, I just didn't know, I just assumed we'd leave it in there, but we actually took it out. to spend it.
yeah, it gets unreserved. That never can go over. It has to sit at 5%. So if it's over, it comes back. And it's been a little funny the last couple of years because of all the excess general fund. And then if there's contingent appropriations versus transfers, it impacts that calculation. So it can go either way.
Okay. Any questions about our reserve? This often does come up on the floor too.
It would be useful to have what the swing was in the last recession.
See if we can dig that up.
What the decrease was like 29, 2009. Yeah,
And then that way, we can, the swing in the general fund, I think the sound like an old blueprint. General fund is where we take care of, the least advantage in our society.
Okay, any other questions, Ms. Byrne, about this? We've exhausted all your spreadsheets?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I could make more, but it's probably good for today.
Okay. And now,
We've got the web report. And then Grady was making those last couple changes to the bill, and then it will be over with copies of the bill, but I think you can take time.
they're gonna be
Take
color
a break.
bound.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not this version, it's a draft, but
The web report is the bill, really, right?
Right.
It does have a link.
there's a language, and we put together the change, only the changes. For the one that gets posted online, we'll have the whole bit, all of the appropriations, but this one just for you all to review, it's just the sections that are changing
Just the changes.
compared to the governor, so there are sections that didn't change. But the House changed that you concurred with the House on, it will show up, but
Not here.
it should show up in here.
Any part of the web report that had a box of change, so whether the House changed it or we changed it.
Correct.
It was the-
Yeah.
We concurred with the governor, it's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can look at your spreadsheets again, you can look at the web report, and then Brady will come over with the budgets. All right, place them on your desk.
Or we'll find
We'll find you.
you if you're not here.
Okay, sure, go ahead. So then you're expecting that to happen in the next 15 minutes, or how long do you think it takes? To try and see like when should we come back
Oh,
to vote on?
have something out 40 minutes every couple months.
Pretty far.
You can do 3 o'clock, I mean, because I think these two bills, voting on the budget shouldn't take long unless people find these big changes or errors.
250. I
Okay,
like that.
right. Going on Smitty. Right, it's a good fit. No, so. Okay. So center line 250. With that, we will adjourn until 2.